All right, guys, welcome to episode 4. The shit New York Giants fans say. So, I'm gonna go ahead and start it off with this crazy comment right here where one of our fans basically posted this in the group and he said, I'll never forgive DeVito and Taylor for ruining our draft spot after DJ worked so hard to get us up to number 2 with a real shot at number 1. Now, I find this comical because what's going on with New York Giants fans is that I can't even say that our fan base is full of casual fans. They see what's going on. They see who's on the offensive line. They see the offensive line change, and then they lie and they say, "Oh, the offensive line has been the same the entire season." And then if that's the case, then what you're essentially saying is that Andrew Thomas is not a good left tackle. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that you're not giving up 10 sacks versus the Seahawks if Andrew Thomas plays, because Josh Azudo on the left side, he's a left guard that was playing tackle. He's not a good tackle. So if he's not playing left tackle, Daniel Jones doesn't get it. He doesn't get hurt. But let's just say Daniel Jones didn't get hurt. There wasn't any game that I saw us win where I said, oh, Daniel Jones couldn't win that game. Some of the fans actually believe that we would have won the Bills game if Daniel Jones played. Now, I will say that Daniel Jones, he had the worst situation out of the 3 quarterbacks. And if you disagree, again, you don't think that Andrew Thomas is good, and you don't think that Saquon Barkley is good. So, in my opinion, those are the 2 best players on offense. You would like for it to be Daniel Jones, but if we're honest with ourselves, we will say, yeah, Daniel Jones looks best when he has Andrew Thomas and Barkley in the lineup with him. You could say, hey, well, that didn't happen versus the Cowboys, but that honestly, in my opinion, was the team that should have been in the Super Bowl if Diggs didn't get hurt. The biggest difference for them was losing Diggs. They played well after losing Diggs, but they were never the same. So, you can just call that game an anomaly. Obviously, you have the Arizona game, but you didn't have Andrew Thomas. Then after a while, I don't know if teams just started to figure out that Josh Azudo is not a good left tackle, but I don't know. It was rough for him. If you're gonna have Josh Azudo and Neal at tackle, that has to be the worst version of the offensive line, because as soon as those guys got hurt, you got Andrew Thomas back, you had Pert go to right tackle, you had the guard shuffle. I know we picked up Justin off of the sofa, and people are saying, well, he's not that great, but he's definitely better than Josh Azudo and some of the other guards that were in from weeks 2 to 5 when Daniel Jones was playing. So I don't really understand this statement, because there's no games that Tyrod Taylor and DeVito won where I felt like we couldn't have won those games. So this is just how Giants fans are just, you guys are insane. All right, guys, so I made a little chart for you guys. I know you guys like numbers, and let me explain this to you. So you're going to see the list of teams that we played, but only the ones where someone didn't get benched or someone didn't get hurt. So that means no Jets, no Dolphins, and no Eagles the first time around, because we know DeVito got benched in the second half. So with that said, I think statistically the best quarterback per starts was obviously Tyrod Taylor. Second best was Jones, which might be surprising to a lot of people, because a lot of people were high on Tommy DeVito. I wasn't really high on Tommy DeVito, but I didn't want to be a hater, so I said nothing. But if you look at the level of competition, I would say DeVito had it easier. Honestly, Jones had it harder because he had the worst version of a bad offensive line. And so you look at the competition, he played the Cowboys, and if Diggs didn't get hurt, they could have easily been Super Bowl contenders. Then he played Arizona, and you might be saying Arizona, they were tanking because they didn't have Kyler Murray, but they beat the Cowboys in week 3, so it wasn't no Fugazi thing. He carved them up, and it was crazy because it was only in one half. And so it's the best game of the season because it's a win. Now, if Tyrod Taylor would have won that Rams game, then his game would have been the best game of the season. You could say that all the wins by DeVito, the 3-game win streak, it felt great, but he plays some scrub teams. I mean, we played The boys, you know, they were still good. They weren't as good as they were in week 1, but they were good. They were still winning games. I think they were on a streak at the time too. And then you also have the scrubs in the Washington Commanders, who still had their defensive players. He put up some decent numbers versus them. Then he played Whack Jones. The Patriots defense is never easy, but the whole team is mid because of Mac Jones. And then he played the Green Bay Packers, which people thought was a good team because they made it to the playoffs and they beat the Cowboys. But they had Jair Alexander when they beat the Cowboys. They did not have Jair Alexander when they played us. They would have won that game. I'm sorry to tell DeVito fans that. But then the Saints obviously realized that DeVito's not that great. And that's why you look at the numbers versus the Saints and they're not all that, because it's actually a real defense. They were ready for him. But yeah, Tyrod Taylor's competition was, outside of Washington the second time around when they traded everybody, it was some good competition. The Eagles, they were good, but they were going through some things. And so it wasn't the Eagles that I was expecting when we faced the Eagles. Were they hard? Yeah, but I got them on the bitches because they're bitches. I don't like the Eagles. Never will. It's not that I like the other teams in our division, but I really despise the Eagles. But yeah, the Bills that was pretty hard too. And then the Rams is always going to be hard. You know, they got one of the best defensive players on their team, so he lit them up. But yeah, I would say Taylor, Jones, TD. But we're upset with Jones. But that's good. You know, like his situation was ridiculous. Okay, so this next fan take is crazy to me because if you're going to say, do you have the patience to take the 49ers route, or would you prefer the Chiefs route to the Super Bowl contender? What exactly do you mean? Because the Kansas City Chiefs, when they drafted Patrick Mahomes, they were 12-4. When he didn't play that first year, they were 10-6. And then in his first year as a starter, they're 12-4 again. And so the team was already good. Same with the 49ers. By the time Brock Purdy got to the team was already good. They already have wide receivers. We don't have wide receivers that are close in talent. I know you guys keep thinking that we can elevate the ones that we have. It just doesn't work like that. It's either you're good or you're not. And I don't see the guys that we have right now as super talented. They're good enough to win some games, but you know, even if you change the quarterback, you would prefer to have better wide receivers. And so the Giants need to get better overall. Like a lot of Giants fans, I think you guys believe that this team is good and, you know, we just need a quarterback and that's it. But this team is not good. So this next take is even crazier. Imagine not liking Daniel Jones, and so your solution is to add another Jones. So you want to go from what you think is a bad Jones to a abysmal Jones. Like, I don't know why the Giants fans think we should trade for any QB that's on a rookie contract that will expire sooner than a quarterback that we draft. Like, none of this makes sense. I've seen people say we should trade for Justin Fields. I'm like, why? Why should we trade for Justin Fields instead of drafting a quarterback? Like, how does that make sense? And then you would still have Daniel Jones on the roster. So I don't know why you would want to, like, what's worse than one Jones? Two Jones, right? I don't know if you who thinks this is a good idea. Like, if you think this is a good idea, let me know in the comment section. Would you take Mac Jones? Because Mac Jones is worse than Daniel Jones. Like, Daniel Jones is pick 6 versus the Seattle Seahawks. I remember I was watching the video and the content creator was like, oh, what's worse than one Jones throwing a pick 6? Another Jones throwing an even worse pick 6. So it's like, why would you even want Mac Jones? Like, this is crazy to me. So this last take basically said, see what an elite wide receiver one could do for you? Neither did I. So I don't know if he's just assuming that everybody's going to agree with him and he's talking about the Super Bowl. But if he's talking about the Super Bowl and he's referring to Kansas City, Travis Kelce isn't a wide receiver, but he's a wide receiver. Like, I know we don't think tight ends are wide receivers, but at the end of the day, we're gonna put them in the same category because they're receiving the ball. And so Travis Kelce being out there as opposed to the backup, like let's say he rolled his ankle, then I'm not sure if Kansas City wins the Super Bowl with Travis Kelce injured. So, you know, a lot of Giants fans will say Patrick Mahomes is so great, he doesn't need a good wide receiver group to win. When realistically, he has Travis Kelce, who is the number one threat. It's not like having Saquon Barkley as the number one threat. You have a tight end who can catch the ball in different spots on the field. So he might catch some shorties, but he's also going to give you some yards after the catch. And we don't have any of that. And so, yeah, you see the difference because even if Deebo Samuels didn't do anything for the 49ers, you better believe the defense was worried about him. And even Brandon, I mean, it was to the point where the third wide receiver was getting shit done because he obviously had the easier defender on him. And so even if your wide receiver one isn't putting up a bunch of numbers, him being on the field helps the quarterback and the other wide receivers / tight ends. So yeah, I see what a number one can do for you because we've been operating without one for years. Kenny Galladay was a bust, had nothing to do with Daniel Jones. Golden Tate was on his way out of the NFL, but he's been one of the best wide receivers since Odell Beckham. No disrespect to Slayton and Shepard, but you know they're quality wide receiver 3/2s. But you know they really could have benefited from having somebody who was really talented. And the most talented guy we've drafted so far has been Ingram, who had drops issues. Like he literally cost us that game versus the Eagles. I'll never forget. He was wide open and he couldn't pull the ball in. I guess somebody would say that Daniel Jones didn't throw the ball perfectly for him. So I guess it's Daniel Jones' fault, eh? I mean, it is what it is. You guys tell me what you think, though. But those are all the takes for today. But our fan base is crazy. Like, tell me which take you agree with because this is just insane. Especially adding another Jones to the roster. Oh my God.